Let's do it. All right. So I'll tell a little story. It happened about 2 weeks ago, and this video went around about Breaking Point's forming a network. I'm like, what? And I don't know if it's actually a network. It's a loosely affiliated group of channels, and there's even question as to how affiliated they are in the first place. And I certainly will get into that. We're gonna go through this article, and instead of doing the slideshow, I'm actually just gonna scroll through it because there's actually a video that I want to play in there. And shout out to BigMadCrab for putting that on. Yeah, the new INN. Yeah, not quite. But there are members of the new INN, and we're gonna feature a couple of them here. But so when we heard that this was happening, the Dissident and BigMadCrab and I all kind of got together in our INN thread that we all talk amongst the members, and we're like, I think there's something here. Let's write a story about all the people that are in this group and what they have in common and what links them. And Greg started to put together a video with clips, and he says, I see a connection here. And sure enough, we started scratching the surface a little bit, and yeah, we find that this one's got a little bit of this, and this one's got this guy behind him, and next thing you know, we've got a pretty in-depth article here kind of exposing something that this independent network, how independent really are they? We covered this on INN News. I know Reef covered it with Rob Durden and Colin on Wednesday. They went into a draft version of this that I had shared with them, a secret draft before we published it. And then we went in and wrote a bunch more afterwards. Sabby Sabs covered it on Thursday with Compton J. I believe they started talking about it before it was published. And while they were talking about it, we actually finished it off and hit publish. And we went live on Thursday afternoon, June 2nd. Since then, this article has come under pretty universal fanfare. Everybody seems to agree with it, like it, saying thank you for publishing it, and it's good. And I appreciate that. And shout out to my co-writers and to Crab, my editor, the editor-in-chief over here, our creative director over at INN, for assembling this video. And I'm going to start with the video. We'll start here.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can hear this. A little low.
It's just the music. You can also turn it up that way, but you're good.
That's Ryan Gribb. Somebody's criticizing AOC in the squad. I have to come shit on a random podcaster. I'm the DC bureau chief of the fucking billionaire-funded Intercept, and I still have to peruse in Twitter defending politicians against podcasters' accurate descriptions.
The Chinese are less likely now to invade because of the setbacks the Russians have experienced there. So that's why I think the war matters there. But the Defense Department, the White House, they are doing a great job.
That's what we already know, that Republicans are terrible.
What I tell people is if you have a conscience, you will vote third party for the rest of your life, because how dare you vote for these people?
In 2020, I voted for Biden.
Joe Biden, a racist, warmongering puppet and tool of Wall Street and an enemy of the workers, and somehow you're going to pat yourself on the back that you're a good person.
I think Donald Trump is a danger. I think he's terrible. I also know that I'm a white person saying this. But Hillary Clinton is not slam dunk 100% better that I, as an individual, can in good conscience vote for this.
There seems to be a laser focus on one party. Blinders, earmuffs.
Hear you saying, David, is you're giving an out for them to not do this, and that's disappointing.
I'm not giving them an out.
Yeah,
I'm saying I don't know the answer to when push really came to shove. If you said, I want these things that you really don't want to do, and that those lawmakers should then vote in the way that we're talking about to elect Kevin McCarthy speaker. Just as a human being,
you're misframing this. You keep, as a human being, you keep misframing the issue.
She can't get 218 Democrats, then there's no speaker.
Right.
and then it kicks back to the caucus, and then it's chaos, and then a whole bunch of people can run, and then somebody will emerge. Somebody would emerge from that process.
As he points out, you don't get Kevin McCarthy as speaker.
But as long as we're not arming the Azov battalion, I have no problem arming Ukraine in general so that they can protect themselves from Russian aggression.
Ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history.
They are very comfortable and okay with multipolarity. I mean, they've laughed at me.
So what is that? So what does multipolar
Right, so
look
they've
like?
laughed at me when I'm like, God, we'll be doomed to Europe. And they're like, oh, well, in Europe they have healthcare. And I'm like, yeah, but they also have no say over the global affairs of the world. I want to write the affairs of the world, the rules of the road. I want to be the only blue water navy.
You want a what?
He wants to what now?
What a what? Okay.
He wants to be the world police, policing the world?
Shout out to INN. Shout out to BigMadCrab. Fire. Awesome. And we're going to do another video later on that Joe put together for this, and that's going to be in the second follow-up article. But after years of nonstop lies, many have moved away already from mainstream media and began going to alternative media sources. And as a result, we've seen a lane of media emerge that positions themselves as anti-establishment or populist, but in the end are actually serving the same corporate interests in the mainstream media. So our favorite Caitlin Johnstone put in her recent article titled Kayfabe Populism, Notes from the Edge of the Narrative Matrix, quote, "It's so important that the public have no real say in U.S. politics, that the empire not only set up two oligarchic puppet parties which pretend to oppose each other, but also set up fake populist movements within each of those factions which pretend to be fighting the establishment within those parties." Two legacy examples of this phenomenon in media are the Young Turks, a network that postures itself as opposed to the establishment but often defends the democratic establishment and pushes neocon propaganda on issues such as Syria and Russiagate, among many others, in continuing to push Joe Biden, continuing to apologize for the squad, and the homelessness thing, again, and we're going to get into all that. Tucker Carlson, of course, again, on the other side, we are not right-wing fans, but Tucker Carlson is just as much controlled opposition allowed to be the polarity on the other side. He's the founder of the Daily Caller, a Fox News host who postures as a populist. The issue is that he consistently pushes pro-war talking points on China, has many close connections to the neocon establishment, such as his involvement with the dirty war in Nicaragua, or the fact that he previously tried to join the CIA. I will tell you that the Dissident wrote this portion of the piece. He did great research on that. Both of these outlets are supported by the Republican and Democratic establishment. Young Turks took $20 million from Hillary Clinton donor Jeffrey Katzenberg, and of course Tucker Carlson's allowed to appear on the Rupert Murdoch-funded Fox News. So, getting into this, and we talked again about breaking points. The latest example of this type of corporate-backed independent media, quote-unquote, is Breaking Points, a self-described anti-establishment outlet centered around hosts Crystal Ball and Sagar Enjeti, who left the Hills Rising last year at a public breakup after helping build the popularity of that YouTube channel, then started their own channel and show. In reality, the show represents a wealthier segment of the controlled opposition within the Democratic and Progressive and Republican Libertarian establishment. They help determine the parameters of acceptable political discourse. And on their May 30th one-year anniversary stream, they announced their future expansion plans with affiliated outlets. And here's what he says. Our year two plans are simple. And I've got a tweet right here from Sagar. Get bigger, get better, and deliver better news that doesn't make people hate each other. If you can support us today, it means the world. Sign up, just subscribe. We're just getting started. And what do they want to do? They want to add more on-the-ground reporting resources. That's awesome. I love to see on-the-ground reporting. However, who's funding it and exactly what spin and angle and who are they hiring to do so? Hiring new staff to expand.
While at the same time asking for funding.
Well, right. Hiring new staff. This sounds a lot like a $2 million drive to hire 4 reporters to me. A live road show across America.
Sounds like that.
Right? But this is the thing that got me. That expand BP content partnerships really perked my ears. And I went, that really is interesting. And then, of course, the last bullet point.
Yeah.
Upgrade the Breaking Point studio, as if they don't already have one of the nicest studios and nicest sets in independent media.
Right.
Now,
Their
what I
desk
found...
cost how much?
Well,
scroll up a little bit.
I don't want to get into that. But what I want to mention is that Sagar, who's pretty decent sized following, this tweet only had 347 likes.
Come on, bro. I got more than that on a Joe Rogan meme.
Wow. Okay, so now I look at the Breaking Points community. So partners of the show elevate Breaking Points to another level from the contributions of Maximilian Alvarez, Ryan Grimm, and others at The Intercept, on-the-ground reporting by Jordan Sheraton, and the thoughtful commentaries by Matt Stoller and James Lee. They also were talking, of course, about Dave Sirota, and they were talking about Crystal Ball, about Kyle Kalinske, and these were the logos that were positioned and mentioned in the live stream. This came straight from the live stream. Right. They put this out. This is their tweet from the Breaking Points community. We did not put this out. Just want to stress that.
Been deleted. It's not been.
And just 100 times. I did not do and manipulate this graphic above. So, shown in the graphic above, who are the core members of the Crystal, Kyle, and Friends Breaking Points Network, is Crystal Ball, who is from Breaking Points, Crystal, Kyle, and Friends. These are the shows that they appear on. Kyle is part of that. Okay, and then you've got Marshall, who is from the Realignment podcast and the executive producer at On Deck. Well, what's On Deck? And we're going to get into a little bit about what On Deck is. Okay, and then the shows that they're involved with, right, where they appear, YouTube and podcast. I also found it really fascinating. How is it that Breaking Points does not have its own Twitter account that like tweets out segments from the show or lets people know when new clips have dropped or any? Yet they still continue to have.
Don't give them good ideas.
It's intentional. It's the fact that they can give the algorithm the finger. They don't have to be on Twitter, and they're still growing like that. That's got to raise some eyebrows. Okay, so affiliated outlets, and this apparently got some people upset. The fact that I even listed these people at all, but they were listed and they've appeared. And what I've learned more since in speaking to some of the people here in DMing them and reading their responses and their reactions publicly, I'm not so sure that they knew that they were going to be mentioned in this stream. They have all appeared in year one. They have all appeared in year one on Breaking Points. And it was almost, to me, in a way, like a recap of here's all the outlets that we've featured and showcased on our network, but it was not really sold that way.
Right.
And it was not presented that way. And I think it took some of these people by surprise, honestly.
I'll take statements if any of these people want to, send us something.
If anybody does want to let us know that they were surprised and did not know that they were going to be mentioned on the Breaking Points live stream, that would be really helpful, and we'd really like to know that. But I'm looking at this group of people that they mention, and we're saying there's a connection here, at least among some of them. At least among some of them, there is some type of a connection.
Yeah.
So we're going to start to look into some of the more questionable elements within the group and their affiliates. And originally that was written as nefarious, and I don't want to call it nefarious per se, but it's certainly questionable, and it's what we're going to open up and what we're going to start to ask questions about now. First of them is
super sus.
The first of them is our friend Crystal Ball, who originally ran, of course, as a Democrat for Congress. She's also not free from corporate sin. Long since operated under the progressive guise, while simultaneously sheep-herding her audience into the Democratic machine. Following her failed congressional run, she went on to work under contract with the popular cable network MSNBC. I think we all know that. She's quite set on the idea that reforming the Democratic Party is the best course of action for the working class, as she made clear in her book in 2017. Although here she correctly documents the descent of the Democratic Party, she rests on the case of turning the Democrats into the idle fantasy of defeating the managerial class and Silicon Valley giants via electoral politics without once mentioning or calling for direct action through her entire career. So How do you expect to achieve that? You cannot vote your way out of this. And that is, again, what they're trying to do. So this was a little, a 2-minute clip that had been shared by the Breaking Points community, and she's reflecting and very proud of all the things that she's done. And again, 96 likes, 11 retweets. This is a show that has 800,000 YouTube subscribers.
Right.
Something's weird. So, worse,
Sure.
Crystal seemed to fully recover from the financial corruption scandal surrounding her former PAC, the People's House Project, in 2018. With a stated mission of supporting working and middle-class Democratic House candidates in the Midwest and Appalachian states, that sounded a lot like it was going to support our friend Paula Jean, Crystal used much of the raised money to fund her own salary and gave less than 3% of the total raised money actually paid out for congressional candidates. According to the FEC, records show that she paid... Well, unfortunately, sorry, Jimmy, yes. But records show that she paid herself $280,000, but only paid out $48,766 as contributions. Very interestingly, and something else that I'm going to be looking into, and it will be in the follow-up, is the fact that the PAC also paid Perkins Coie almost $18,000. Well, who's Perkins Coie?
Perkins Coie. Oh, God.
Perkins Coie, and this is not exactly the most lefty outlet, of course, but Perkins Coie is a law firm that Michael Sussman worked for.
Okay.
Michael Sussman is the lawyer that lied to the FBI about the Steele dossier, who was just declared...
Oh, that's it.
Direct ties to the Clinton campaign. So, who were the expenditures paid out to over her 2017-20, and this is just 1 year of her PAC. Okay, you see Blue Dot Consulting got $11,000. Perkins Coie, I'm sorry, not Cole, Coie. But Perkins Coie is the law firm. Almost sure.
Gotcha.
Am I right here? Perkins. I'm almost sure of it.
Backup one.
Am I drawing the wrong conclusion here? I'm almost sure of it.
You're like one link. Go back one. There you go.
Perkins Coie, yeah. Yep, that's them. They're sharing a workspace currently with the FBI.
FBI. Yep.
Democratic Party aligned law firm sharing workspace with the FBI. That's who she paid almost $18,000 to in 2018.
Yeah. Yep.
That's where we're at. So we're going to be digging a little bit deeper into that relationship and exactly what she hired them to do for that $18,000. And why she hired them instead of any other law firm in the world. So that's our friend Crystal. Now we're going to dig into Saagar. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. I'll throw a little bit. I'm looking at chat, and BigMadCrab, who's in the chat. And again, shout out to Crab on the video. He's pointing out that Reid Hoffman is one of the larger funders of this. Now, this is the expenditures, but where did the PAC actually get its money from? And a lot of it is funded by Reid Hoffman, or a PAC that was funded by Reid Hoffman. Okay, who's a large Russiagator, who also was one of the people involved with the Shadow app that ended up screwing Bernie out of the Iowa caucus in 2020. So I wanted to get into Saagar and Marshall a little bit and talk a little bit about the realignment. So the realignment's a podcast hosted by, of course, Breaking Points co-host Saagar Enjeti and Marshall Kozloff. And as journalist Alan McLeod, shout out to Alan, he's amazing, love Alan McLeod, reported in Mid-Press News that the podcast, along with his two co-hosts, was previously funded by the Hudson Institute, a pro-Iraq war think tank funded by weapons manufacturers like Raytheon and Northrop Grumman. And again, I'm going to include Robbie Martin's tweet, and actually Robbie reached out and said he thought the article was pretty good. So thank you, Robbie, for checking it out and for responding. Pretty good. He said he thought it had a little bit of a Jimmy Dore sycophantish feel and had too much Jimmy in there, but that's okay. I feel that. It's all good, dude.
Aw. Breathe. Breathe, my son. You all right?
Sorry, coffee went down the wrong way.
That Duncan go down the wrong way?
Sure did.
That's Colin's fault.
Thanks, Colin. Thank you. So just to show you that the Hudson Institute, again, which has contracts with Raytheon and Northrop Grumman, just how much money have they made in the last month? This is Seeking Alpha, searching the term Raytheon and searching the term Northrop Grumman over the last 30 days worth of articles. Okay?
Okay.
Raising their dividend by 10%.
One more time. Who's this from?
This is from Seeking Alpha. Okay, and again, Northrop Grumman and Raytheon are funding the Hudson Institute, which are funding the Realignment podcast, and also have been featured on Breaking Points, and that's where James Lynch, is a neocon. And
what's Seeking Alpha again?
It's a stock website.
Okay.
So I was looking up, stock news for each of these companies to see, public announcements of contracts won. So podcast guest list is full of hardcore neocons such as Mike Pompeo. Of course, we're no stranger to the Assange case, of course. And he's going to be testifying apparently in a Spanish courtroom about his involvement in that case.
Yep.
Other guests include Josh Rogan, a Washington Post columnist who pushes for almost every war, total neolib. Josh Hawley, a neocon senator who consistently pushes for a new Cold War with China and push Biden harder on sanctions, to put harsher sanctions on Iran and Russia. And then, of course,
Old Tom Cotton,
one of the most extreme right-wingers in the Senate, young and dangerous. Okay, of course, he wrote an op-ed arguing that the U.S. military should deploy troops against anti-racist protesters domestically. He also led a letter to the Iranian premier undermining the president. I mean, it was how he was able to get away with that still, I can't believe. But here's where it starts to get interesting. According to Marshall's Twitter bio, that the podcast is also part of the Lincoln Network. Now, that's not the Lincoln Project, but it is something that needs to be investigated and looked into a little bit at Join Lincoln, which is a boutique think tank that works with policymakers and tech innovators to promote market-oriented ideas to strengthen innovation. He's a lobbyist. And he's using the podcast.
Of course he's a lobbyist. Oh, God. Why?
All right. So, the podcast two co-hosts have extremely sketchy backgrounds. Alan McLeod reported that Sagar started his career at the Institute for the Study of War, which is a hyper-hawkish think tank funded by arms manufacturers, also ties to big money, big arms. And Jetty has also studied counterterrorism studies at the Israeli University IDC Herzliya, which has a board full of former CIA officials and former Mossad chiefs. That's also a little problematic. There he is with his former boss in 2020, when he was on Fox News.
The Steph tweet, too.
It's so bad that
like right there.
Jimmy Dore goes on Fox News, but this guy actually worked for Tucker, but that's cool. All good.
Yep.
Sagar?
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Hold on. Wait, I'll find it. Wait. I have a thing from Steph. Where's it at? It's on Get Indie News, our Twitter, which if you're not following our Twitter, you should be. Where is it? Like, how far down is it? You know?
I do not know. We have a lot of tweets, man.
Yeah. Can I search? Like,
you doing a Marshall thing? Is that what this is? I don't know where you're going.
No, it's the one with Steph talking about the Hudson Institute.
Oh, that you clipped last night. I don't know where that is, but
I'm looking for it.
Okay.
Right now. So you
But
can keep going.
in the meantime,
Don't
Sagar
go
often
that-
slips neocon talking points into breaking points. He once hosted pundit Jacob Hellberg, who said that the United States needs to send arms to Taiwan and support a war with China if they invaded Taiwan. Of course, Andretti failed to disclose that Hellberg works for the think tank CSIS, which is funded by arms manufacturers, oil companies, Western governments, and Gulf dictatorships. This propaganda has had a massive effect on Breaking Point's audience, and when polled, 57% of their audience voted in favor of war with China over Taiwan. Again, I don't know how surprising that is, because if half of their audience is coming from Sagar, which is more to the conservative flair, they're going to support this, anything military. He even once admitted that he supported unipolar hegemony, saying, I want to write the affairs of the world, the rules of the road. I want to be the only blue water navy. And, Crab had that in his clip.
I am not for like a multipolar world. And a lot of socialists that I've argued with, they are very comfortable and okay with multipolarity. I mean, they've laughed at me.
So what is that? So what is a multipolar?
Right, so
world
they've
like?
laughed at me when I'm like, God, we'll be doomed to Europe. And they're like, oh, well, in Europe they have healthcare. And I'm like, yeah, but they also have no say over the global affairs of the world. I want to write the affairs of the world, the rules of the road. I want to be the only blue water navy. I don't want the Chinese ruling the Straits of Malacca and the South China Seas, because I believe America, for me, it's about freedom. America and American citizens are less free with a global authoritarian superpower like China that is rising in the East.
Global authoritarian superpower, fear-mongering China. What?
Rock on over to your Twitter real quick, and I DM'd you that our thing.
Okay. Well, I'll have to give me 1 second here.
Go to your messages.
Ding, 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 ding. We need like the technical difficulties
Share the
music.
tweet.
We have like the technical difficulties music. Okay. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, we're back. So, on tonight's Jimmy Dore show, let's watch the wonderful Steph Zamorano.
Did you guys see the video on home wrecking points? Breaking Sabby and CJ at RBN did yesterday. It's a must watch. You should play the short clip they did. Hilarious. Find out who funds them. Reefer After Dark. You know, I did watch. Somebody sent it to me, and they were talking about breaking points, and that it was that they constantly, you know, everybody in the stratosphere will refer to Jimmy, you know, like saying that he's some sort of right winger. And, you know, I think what they don't understand is that where Jimmy's coming from, it appeals to people, you know, not to just somebody who thinks that they're a liberal or somebody who says that they're conservative. That, you know, Jimmy's point of view is like an every person's point of view, and his seeking of truth is engaging. And so where some people will say, oh, do you see the people that watch his show? Okay, rein it in, everybody. Because I think what's the funny part is that people have mistaken breaking points as some sort of left nirvana. And it's like, how... I mean, Sagar is a right winger. And who is the other person that they've invited on his platform is Marshall Kozlov. And Michael Kozlov and Sagar do a podcast called The Realignment. And they're both fellows of the Hudson Institute, which is a conservative think tank. Surprise.
Surprise, everybody!
Surprise! Yeah, I think we were already there. But yes, thank you, Steph.
And you're smart.
Thank you.
You know.
So here's interestingly, and we're gonna watch a couple minutes of this. Marshall has an equally sketchy background. So in the documentary on the Israel lobby, The Lobby by the Electronic Intifada, Marshall shown taking part in a neocon-funded AstroTurf counter-protest to a pro-BDS protest. When the documentary host points out that this sounded like astroturfing, Marshall responds saying, "This is astroturfing." The protest was funded by the neocon Hoover Institution. Okay, he's also a media fellow at the neocon Hudson Institute. According to his LinkedIn page in 2014, he won the Campus Activist of the Year from APAC, the Israel lobby. We're going to talk a little bit about On Deck.
Of course.
Yep. But let's watch a couple minutes of this.
So,
This is
Marshall. Nice to meet you. This is one of those things where either it's going to be amazing and we're going to defeat BDS, or we're just broken.
Well, you can't beat him, join him.
I'm obsessed with winning, so I just want to win. So I want to win something.
They don't win anymore.
The protesters are on a fellowship program run by a conservative think tank called the Hoover Institution.
The whole fellowship is describing as like you guys are being like foot soldiers of conservative movement. This is actually the first foot soldier activity that I think we've been forced to do. Tony, what's your connection to the conspiracy that we're all part of?
Yeah. Diesel Project. So you can't not come.
Their plan is to disrupt the National Conference of Students for Justice in Palestine. Marshall said that the pro-Israel protest had been poorly planned.
It's a very fly-by-the-pants procedure. It was basically just like Noah Pollock coming and being like, look, there are these jihadis who basically started suicide bombing, and they're at a campus, and you have to stop them.
A chance to shout at Arabs?
What?
As we're leaving, we mentioned to our boss yesterday that we're going. She's like, oh yeah, that's mandatory. You need to go.
While they've been told they have to take part in the protest, not everyone on the bus is convinced it's good for their reputation.
Do you know what my worst nightmare is? I'm actually not kidding. It's a photo of Dion and I together, and we're just like clearly identifiable. And they're like, "Oh, who are these like traitors who sold out to the Jewish conspiracy for money?" And I'm like, "We did. We cost $50,000 plus benefits."
What? As the bus leaves, they discuss whether there's any point in staging the protest.
$50,000 plus benefits.
Using the protesting tactic against them?
That's not our demographic. They don't like. The reason protests work is when like the people involved really care about it and like want to be there.
But then what are we supposed to do? Because they keep existing and they keep expanding, and no matter how many lawmakers come out against BDS, they keep growing.
Well, no, you're right. Like, we should do something, but at the end of the day, like, the notion that the right is ever going to dominate any sort of campus protest is ridiculous.
You can't just let them.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
And that's what happened.
If I were a high-level Jewish doer, I would be like a little more realistic about the expectations.
So what would you do if you were a high-level Jewish doer?
I continue to do what you're doing, which is focusing on the actual power structures that use power structures in themselves. Like, the reality is there's not a single college president in this country that would actually sign BDS. There is not a single...
They all allow SJP to exist on their campus.
Because of free speech, they cannot let them.
So what are they supposed to do about it?
When a protest is sponsored and organized...
Wow, like, yeah. He's trying to at least make...
explain that?
He's at least trying to, like, make an argument.
Like,
Wow, like, that, what he's being explained to, and this is the entire conservative, again, well, it's Arabs bad and everybody else good, and he's trying to be like, well, like, are you sure about that? And he's asking questions, he's concerned, but meanwhile, he participated in this whole thing. He asked the questions, he certainly had the moral questions, and then proceeded to go ahead and do it.
And ignore them.
Definitely heavily questionable. Okay. And again, talks about astroturfing later on, and that it was funded by the Hoover Institution, and it was designed to disrupt a legitimate BDS protest, and provide an astroturfed counter narrative where people were being paid to protest, to counter protest. I mean, it's just
right
artificially make it appear like there were a bunch of people that felt as passionately the same way, but they're not, that they're being paid and it's part of their job. So what's really interesting also I found is that if you look at his thing about On Deck, it says executive producer at Beyond Deck Media. However, when I go to the On Deck website, it doesn't say executive producer, it says podcast lead. That certainly doesn't say executive producer. So on top of everything else, I have a question as to who is On Deck, what is his role there, Did they fund the show? Do they fund him? Do they provide support? What exactly are they? And we can talk about them, and that's some of the things that we're also going to get into in one of our follow-ups.
Yeah.
But since this is running a little long, and we do have a couple more things to cover in here, I want to talk about The Intercept a little bit, our not-so-favorite outlet that, kind of started this all. Fierce adversarial journalism, quote-unquote. One of my heroes, and it's so disappointing to have to do an article like this and talk about this publication like this, and to see the fall from grace that they've had, and maybe it wasn't necessarily a fall from grace entirely, and maybe we were fooled into thinking that it was more progressive than it actually was. It did always have Pierre Omidyar and his billionaire funding behind it. We felt like it had integrity when it came to hiring Glenn Greenwald and Jeremy Scahill and Laura Poitras and letting them run wild and be the journalists that they were, without having fear of being fired for their words. However, what we've seen is that The Intercept now is infamous for censoring its founder Glenn Greenwald's reporting on the Hunter Biden laptop story in 2020. His reporting was censored because of the evidence-free claim from former intelligence spooks that the contents of his laptop were Russian disinformation. And there's a great segment on Jimmy Dore. It's a complete walkthrough of everything that happened. It's about 40 some odd minutes long. Definitely watch that.
Yeah, I remember it.
Excellent segment. Okay. But the claim has since been proven false, of course, with mainstream media outlets such as Politico, WAPO, New York Times confirming the contents of the laptop. And in his resignation letter, he offered a scathing critique of The Intercept. Glenn wrote that The Intercept had become indistinguishable from the mainstream media outlets, that it was set up to oppose writing, and I can't disagree. I can't agree with him more. Rather than offering a venue for airing dissent, marginalized voices, and unheard progressives, it is rapidly becoming just another media outlet with mandated ideological and partisan loyalties, a rigid and narrow range of permitted viewpoints ranging from establishment liberalism to soft leftism, but always anchored in the ultimate support for the Democratic Party. A deep fear of offending hegemonic cultural liberalism and center-left luminaries, Twitter luminaries, an overarching need to secure the approval and admiration of the very mainstream media outlets. We created The Intercept to oppose, critique, and subvert. Outside of Glenn's articles, The Intercept often toes the security state line on crucial issues. For example, The Intercept often pushed a pro-regime change line on Syria. So, for example, The Intercept published an article titled "Russia Sows Doubts Over a Chemical Weapons Attack in Syria, Aided by Pro-Trump Cable Channel," that claimed anyone questioning the alleged chemical attack in Duma was repeating Russian propaganda. And you've got Robert Mackey doing that. Okay. Talking about an obscure channel in San Diego got access to the site, before chemical weapons inspectors did. Since this article, whistleblowers within the OPCW, the chemical weapons watchdog that inspected the site at Duma, leaked documents, of course, to WikiLeaks. Oh, I misspelled WikiLeaks of that. That proved that the chemical attack was indeed a false flag. WikiEaks. The Intercept also published an article after Trump's bombing of Syria titled, "Dear Bashar al-Assad Apologists, your hero is a war criminal, even if he didn't gas Syrians." That implied critics of the dirty war in Syria were supporting Bashar al-Assad.
Right.
And that's our old friend, Mehdi Hassan, who Richard Medhurst definitely would like to throw a shoe at. They've even hidden documents that would have prevented the dirty war in Syria, as Whitney Webb reported him in Press News. They withheld an NSA doc that may have altered the course of the entire Syrian war. They waited until 2017 to publish documents from Edward Snowden that proved the so-called moderate rebels were actually being funded by the Saudi Arabian government. They also whitewashed large jihadist elements within Syria's U.S.-backed rebels. They once used Bilal Abdul Karim as a source, a journalist, quote-unquote, who's a member of Al-Qaeda Syria, al-Nusra.
Al-Nusra.
Okay, there you go. American journalist in rebel-held Syria reports barely dodging a missile strike. They even went so far as to give a softball interview to one of Syria's al-Qaeda leaders They've repeated State Department line on Nicaragua, publishing an article entitled How Nicaragua Uses Anti-Terror Laws Against Protesters to Suppress Dissent. What the article fails to mention is that the protests were actually a violent coup attempt supported by CIA cutout the NED, where Sandinista supporters were tortured daily. Highly problematic. Most importantly, The Intercept has partnered with Bellingcat, a pro-war propaganda outlet closely connected to the U.S. and UK governments with intel ties.
Yep.
That's a big problem. So let's get back
Very
to
much so.
how did The Intercept come to be? Well, it was founded with a $50 million donation put in by Pierre Omidyar, a billionaire and co-founder of eBay. He himself has been involved, he was also a PayPal, I believe, in financially supporting Western regime change operations around the world. Journalist Mark Ames reported on leaked documents that show that in 2014, he funded the Maidan coup in Ukraine along with Western governments. In a lengthy investigation on Omidyar journalists, Max Blumenthal and Alexander Rubinstein reported that Omidyar uses his wealth to advance Washington's policy, goodness gracious, of regime change and is partnered with CIA cutouts such as USAID and the NED. Blumenthal and Rubinstein wrote of Omidyar, quote, behind the image, he's cultivated himself as a progressive philanthropreneur. He's wielded his media empire to advance the Washington consensus in strategic hotspots around the globe. His fortune helped found an outlet to propel a destabilizing coup in Ukraine. He's helped establish a network of oppositional youth activists and bloggers in Zimbabwe. And in the Philippines, he's invested in an oppositional news site that is honoring corporate surveillance techniques like a mood meter to capture non-rational reactions. Meanwhile, he's partnered closely with the U.S. With the leading arms of U.S. soft power, from USAID to NED, acting as a conduit for information warfare-style projects in countries around the world. They're the American version of Bellingcat. So, they've also been widely criticized, of course, for opposing grassroots movements that upset the Democratic Party. For example, Jimmy Dores pointed out that many reporters from The Intercept, such as Ryan Grimm, were opposing his campaign to force a vote on Medicare for all. In Dores' view, this was The Intercept running interference to protect politicians from having to answer to the grassroots campaigns that helped get them elected in the first place. He said The Intercept's interference was to take the heat of politicians who are abandoning you. Ryan Grimm is running interference for these politicians that are abandoning you, and that's what The Intercept and Ryan Grimm are there to do. And Pierre is not the only billionaire that's around them. It appears that he's stepped back in his donations, and that happens every couple of years. But he's got a good friend, and his name's a guy by the name of Dustin Moskovitz. Our buddy Robbie Yeager found this one. Right now, one of the funding, and again, this is 2018, Silicon Valley Community Foundation is one of the principal contributors to First Look Media Works, $31 million. $31 million, okay? So,
Hostages show up?
What? No. $1 million, is that why? Yeah, the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. Yep, there you go. Contributions and grants.
How many zeros is that?
That's a lot of zeros. 2 billion? 16 million?
2 billion?
$2 billion. Silicon Valley Community Foundation.
I like how they tacked on that extra 16 mil, because
32 million went to The Intercept.
Right.
First Look Media Works. Same people. Just showing you who they are and what they're about. That's Elizabeth Carey, who is the principal officer. I would like to be the principal officer of a $2 billion fund. Well, maybe someday. Anyway, so that's our friends at The Intercept. And again, there's more here. Apologies for the typos. We're going to go in and we're going to clean these up. I've been catching them, and oh my God, now it's embarrassing. Okay, so finally, we have, and this hurts me almost as much as anything else, because I am a big fan of Matt Stoller. I think Matt Stoller does phenomenal work, especially on monopolies. However, he has a blog that I'm a big fan of, a Substack, BigMadCrab, and he talks about domestic politics and monopolies, like I said. However, his extremely hawkish foreign policy views, namely on China, Daniel Bessner, reported that he supported Biden's ramping up tensions with China because the Chinese government's goal is to get rid of democracy worldwide and because the CCP is the modern Nazi party. Stoller pushes the idea that the West is supporting an international globalist order that China is trying to subvert. As journalist Robert Wright wrote, Stoller thinks China's goal is to subvert the current international global order. He's often seen collaborating with Crystal and Sagar to push neocon propaganda about China. In his appearance on Rising, Stoller fearmongered about China infiltrating Hollywood and the NBA and claimed the U.S. government was too soft on China in what was very reminiscent of Russiagate fearmongering about China, but this time about China. I believe that was during COVID, and the NBA was talking about where they're going to play and with the shots and everything else. And then there was also about questioning China policy. Rising, of course, has been suspicious since its beginning. In its early days, it was hosted by Crystal Ball and Buck Sexton, a former CIA agent. Back then, it didn't have a populist slant to it. Sexton would often pump out mainstream neocon segments, such as an interview with a former national security advisor to push Trump's war with Iran. The show began as populist bent when Sagar joined. Robbie Martin, journalist and researcher who focuses on neocon infiltration of the populist right, has pointed out that once Engetti joined, Rising basically became a repackaged version of the realignment. On Rising, Sagar would often repeat neocon talking about China, but frame it as using the language of populism. Examples of this are segments titled John Cena's disgusting bow to China reveals how sold out U.S. elite is, and NBA China problems show how corporations have sold out America. Right. This segment titled shows how Sagar pushes China bashing under the guise of being anti-elite and anti-corporations. Eventually, after leaving The Hill, Rising turned into the independent YouTube channel Breaking Points. Their new network is full of China hawks and billionaire-funded media, shows that they are continuing their long tradition of offering a corporate-friendly alternative to the mainstream media. And then there was the segment to hear on INN News, which starts about an hour and a half in and runs for the rest of the show. So everybody's, and again, this is a developing story. On a list, here is the active content creator list right now at INN. And we've got, this is actually an older list because we've got Kobe and we don't have Joe and we don't have Crab and we don't have a couple people. So I have to update that. Well, there's Crab. Yeah. He's there. There's Daryl, Black in the Empire. Check him out. Definitely. But I also wanted to shout out one other thing tonight, and that's Joe. Let me get to, I had it loaded up here and then I lost it. I had it, I lost it. Here it is.
Hey guys, it's Crystal.
And Sagar, we have an amazing announcement for you. We are starting a brand new, totally independent show. Could not be more excited about it. We want to compete with CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. They've got endless resources, but we've got you.
Guys, if you haven't canceled your Breaking Points subscription yet, I don't know what you're doing. Get on it. These people are literally like promoting economic warfare and real warfare with China. Should not be giving them your money.
That's something else that we're really proud of, is that the audience has really different views across the entire spectrum.
No one's actually holding these fucks accountable because they brainwashed their entire audience into thinking that we should be going to war with China.
Breaking Points is building a network with most of the same issues as corporate media, and he says got to give the viewers of Breaking Points what they want. So who is the viewers? This is a question they've asked. If China were to invade Taiwan, would you support the United States coming to Taiwan's defense?
Yeah, that's a right-wing China.
57% said yes.
Now we are able to partner with all of these great people.
Shut the fuck up, Sagar.
So that's the main graphic for everybody together. Breaking Points asked the guy that's against forced to vote. What is happening over here with Breaking Points? Just weird, like, conflicts of interest of him pushing the Democratic Party, and he happened to be married to a Democrat. And then there was one video I was watching when he was like, yeah, I know some Democrats, and I paused it, Nick. I paused it, Rome, and I was like, what do you mean you know so many Democrats? You're fucking a Democrat. Yeah. Breaking Points as the team who censored Glenn Greenwald. And Sabrina, aka Sabby Sab, she put the right comment up for this next graphic, and that is for Marshall K.
Go fuck yourself, you fucking egghead nerd. I don't give a fuck about your committee shit. Why don't you stop saying that stupid shit?
That's directed at Matt.
It's a tumultuous time, it's a sad time, and it's a dangerous time. But there is not a reason to give up on the fact that every day, the harder we work and the more people that we expand and more, that we actually can change with the status quo. You know, change feels like it's not happening and then it happens all at once.
Shut the fuck up, Sagar.
What does this say to you? Does this scream revolution? Does this scream this scream urgency?
We want to continue to upgrade this studio. We need to fix some of the lights.
Shut the fuck up, Sagar. Not everything's propaganda. Sagar is just an anti-China hack who comes from the Hudson Institute, which is one of the most anti-China conservative think tanks on the planet.
So look, guys, if you can help us out, you know, I know how hard you guys work. And I know how hard it is out there, inflation and all that.
Shut the fuck up, Sagar.
We need to fix some of the lights.
Shut the fuck up, Sagar.
You know, if you're used to consuming mainstream news content, and you're not used to watching YouTube shows, and you see something that has, you know, a more minimalist background or more casual vibe to it, then I think there is a natural instinct to be like, that's not serious, that's not real.
They have 80,000 people subscribed to them right now.
800.
Think of the minds that they are poisoning. Think about all the rage that people have built up inside of them that they are keeping down. They are wetting out people fire.
And if you can really support us, become a founding member. It's a one-time payment of $1,500.
Shut the fuck up, Sagar.
So fuck Marshall, fuck Kyle, fuck all these people. These people are our opposition, and we need to treat them like so.
Shut the fuck up, Sagar.
Who are these people?